Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar. This is Brandy Brimhall, and I am hosting for you tonight. I do have a special guest speaker here with us that has a very relatable story. I am anxious to have him present his slide deck here, because with experience comes wisdom, and though he's not necessarily presenting a technique type of topic that you're typically hearing at one of the Brimhall seminars, he is presenting a very important subject that tends to come up at every vendor table at every event. And so with that, I want to go ahead and get started and allow him to share some of his experience, his wisdom, and his tools, which is Brent Kessler from the Money Multiplier. So Brent, if you'd like to begin.
All right, Brandy, thank you very much. Do I got my screen here? Just good to go, because it says here to start broadcast. Do I need to click on that or no?
I think Clark did.
Okay, so I'll just X out of that then. I'll X out of that where it says start broadcast, and you can see my screen okay, yes?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, well, thanks for having me on. And yes, my name is Brent Kessler, and my company is called The Money Multiplier. And again, I'm going to be presenting at the Dr. Brimhall event in Arizona this next week. It looks like we're about 10 days away. So I'll be presenting, I believe it's on Friday, that I'll be presenting live there at the event. And then there'll be a couple breakout sessions in the afternoon on Friday and Saturday. And I think this is going to be either my fourth or fifth Brimhall event that I've been presenting at. So again, like Brandy said, you know, the topic that we're going to go over tonight and talk about a little bit is, again, not really related to chiropractic itself. It's basically just going to be talking about and related to your wealth and building your wealth. So keeping all of your cash and your money inside of your family, being able to pay off debt, eliminate debt, recycle, and all that, just all of those dollars that are going out to other people. So who am I? Well, anyway, I am Brent Kessler, and I'm actually a chiropractor. I no longer practice anymore. I haven't done so since 2009. I currently live in Florida. Just moved down to Florida full time here just about 3 months ago, right before Thanksgiving. And my practices, I had 5 practices in the Kansas City area. I had associate docs in all of those practices. So I haven't really actively practiced myself since 2009. Well, the concept that I'm going to share with you, this is now the thing that I do full time. I travel around the country, and I teach these live money multiplier method seminars all around the country, teaching people how to build their wealth, keep their wealth, keep all their dollars in the family, pay expenses, and keep total control of their dollars. Back when I first heard about this so that I'm going to go over and share with you tonight, was back in 2006, actually. And a colleague of mine was the one that told me about it, a chiropractic colleague and a mentor. And he said to me, he says, Brent, you got to get your money and your finances under control. And I saw something kind of like I'm going to share with you tonight, and I thought it looked really good. It was pretty cool, but I didn't believe it. I thought it was too good to be true. So I didn't do anything at all, and I left that event in 2006, and I did nothing at all. So now about 2 years later, early in 2008, I go back to another event with that same chiropractic colleague and mentor of mine. And so anyway, there was about, I don't know, 10 or 12 of my colleagues that were at this event that had started implementing this process that I heard about back in 2006. And they were just ranting and raving about it. They were going on about how they were building their wealth, keeping control of their money, paying off of their debt. And so they were doing all of this without taking any risk, without losing control, and they were keeping all of their dollars inside their family. And they were just so excited and elated about this concept that I thought to myself, there has to be something to this. There's no way that 10 or 12 of my closest colleagues could be telling me a lie. So I thought, okay, I have to implement this in my own life. So back at that time, early in 2008, all right, so my wife and I, we were $984,711 in debt. That's what we owed to the third-party creditors. Now, you're probably thinking, you know, how does a guy from Kansas get to be almost like $1 million in debt? Now, I know if you're from California, that buys a real small house, but in Kansas, that buys a lot. Well, I had my home that I lived in, so that was part of my debt. I had my student loans from chiropractic college. I had my chiropractic office. So my wife and I and my family, we had a condo on the Lake of the Ozarks between St. Louis and Kansas City. And obviously, if you have a place on the lake, you have to have a boat and a wave runner, right? So again, you can't have a place on the lake without a boat and a wave runner. And I'm also an airplane pilot. So being a pilot, you basically have to have your own airplane. So it didn't take me a lot to become almost $1 million in debt. Well, I was able to add this one step into the process of what I was already doing with my money. And I was able to pay off all of that debt in a total of 3 years and 3 months. A total of 39 months, I was able to eliminate that $984,000 in debt. And I did it all without changing my cash flow, without taking any risk, without losing any control or working any harder. I just changed one process and the step that I was doing. Now, again, I'm just here to talk to you and teach you and educate you about this process. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. And when you come to the Brim Hall event next week, it's going to be the same thing. I'm just here to educate and teach you about this concept. However, there is one book that I think you definitely should have in your financial library, in your wealth library. And that's a book by a guy named R. Nelson Nash called Becoming Your Own Banker. That book completely changed my life. It completely changed the outlook on how I look at how it actually worked with money. So that is definitely a book you definitely want to get. And if you're like me and have a little ADD going on and don't like to read, it also comes with 2 hours of audio as well. So that book is called Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And you can go out and Google it or just get it on Amazon as well. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of run through just some slides here that I have. I'm going to be sharing a lot more at the Brim Hall event. So the one thing I do want to bring to your attention is this video right here, and I'm not going to play it for you, but I am going to suggest that you all go watch this on just go to like youtube.com. It's called youtube.com and click on, click on the backward bicycle. The backward bicycle, and it's going to start like this. All right, I'm not going to play it, but so this is what you want to look at. So again, it's called the backward bicycle on like YouTube, and that'll totally get your mind right when you're thinking about your wealth and your money and how to keep control of your money, because the way that we've been programmed to think about money may not actually be the truth. All right, so there may be a much better way out there than what you've been taught. A quote that I love and I think about almost every day is a quote by Will Rogers. And he says this, he says, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so. So a lot of the stuff that you've been taught about your wealth and your money may not actually be the truth, all right? So as I'm going through this here over, about the next hour or a little less, I want you to just keep an open mind, because the stuff that I'm going over with you is not conventional way of thinking about money. It's not what your parents taught you. It's not what your grandparents taught you. But I imagine on this call, on this webinar that we're doing tonight, most of you are chiropractors. And in order to be a chiropractor, you have to think outside of the box a little bit in order to be successful. So this should be pretty easy for most of you, because I'm sure in order for you to be successful in your practice, you have to think outside of the box a bit. All right. So anyways, all right, so let's talk about how your money flows. Well, here's how your money works. The thing that you do is you use your money to buy things, right? To buy products and services. That's all money is a means of exchange. So if I ask you, like, just what is the definition of money? You would say it's a means of exchange, because that's all we do with money all day long, is exchange it for goods and services. In other words, we exchange money for food, food for money, car for money, money for car, house for money, money for house. It's simply a means of exchange. Now, here's what you do with your money. Every time you get money in, you take that money and you put it in the conventional bank. And again, that's the bank of the state that you live in, the Bank of Florida, the Bank of Arizona, the Bank of Utah, the Bank of California, Bank of Texas, wherever you're at. And the thing you do is you take that money and you put it in the bank, and then you pay other people, right? You buy products and services with that money. Yes? Now, so anytime that you buy something with your money, for example, let's say you buy a car with your money. So you take the dollars out of the bank, you go to the car dealer and give the car dealer money, and in exchange, he gives you the car. And the transaction is completed right there. The car dealer has the money and you have the car. Everybody walks away happy. Well, before I end today, I'm going to show you how to get all of the money back for all of the things that you're buying anyway. Like, for example, cars. How about if I could show you how not only can you go to the car dealer and buy the car and get the car dealer gets the money, but now you have a way to get all of that money back. So you have both the money and you have the car. So before we end tonight, I'm going to show you that. All right. Now we're going to, again, that's what we're going to teach you, is the method, the money multiplier method of how to get all the money back that you're spending. Now, the money multiplier method, we can talk about the mysteries, the machine. What's the vehicle that we're going to use to build our wealth? We'll talk about the mission, the marathon. This is not a get-rich-quick deal, okay? This is a life-changing event. This is something that you will change in your life about what you're doing with your money. And also, we'll talk about the millionaire and the movement. Okay. Now, I'm not going to cover all of this tonight, but I'm just going to kind of give you a snapshot of what's coming at the Brim Hall event that's coming up in 10 days and why you guys should all be there. All right. Now, I'm going to say that there is at least one person on this call that has bought a car in the last year, and if for some reason you haven't bought a car in the last year, maybe somebody is going to be buying a car in the future. I'm sure every one of you on the call are eventually going to buy another car sometime or another, right? Because the car that you're driving is not going to last you forever. Chances are, unless you're 16, 17, or 18 years old, the car that you're driving today is not the first car that you ever bought, right? You've bought cars in your life. You've bought and sold cars, and you're going to continue to buy and sell cars in your life, all right? So I'm going to say that you bought or are in the market to buy, or you recently purchased a $25,000 car. Now, I'm going to be your local banker. And if you notice this calculator over here on the right, I'm going to say that you have $25,000 in your bank account, and it's earning 4% interest. Now, I know it's not earning 4% interest, but I'm going to say you found a really good bank that's paying you 4% interest, okay? And I'm going to be your banker, so we'll just call me Banker Brent. And here's what you do. So you come into my bank and you say, Brent, I want to take out that $25,000 that I have sitting in my account to go buy a car. Okay, now remember that money is sitting in your account earning 4% and you want to take it out. And I say, no, 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 no. Do not take the $25,000 out of the bank that's earning 4% interest. Instead, I'm going to make you a loan for $25,000 and I'm going to charge you 6% interest. Now, if we buy a $25,000 car and we go to a bank and finance it, how long are we going to just have that bank note for? Some of you might say 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years, right? So let's just say 5 years, okay? Now, remember, okay, the $25,000 that's in the bank earning 4%, I'm telling you not to take that out to go buy the car. Instead, we're going to use this account as collateral. We're going to make you a loan for $25,000 and charge you 6% interest. And over the same equal time period, in this case, 5 years or 60 months, our bank will pay you more money on the 4% that you're earning than you will pay us on the 6% that you're borrowing. Now, is that a true statement? In other words, is it possible for you to make more money earning 4% at the same time you're paying 6%? And you're probably thinking the same thing that I thought when I was sitting in your chair. Absolutely not. That is not possible, because if I borrow at 6 and earn 4, I'm losing 2%. That's exactly what I thought too, but the banker is telling you the truth. And let's walk through it. So a $25,000 loan at 6% for 5 years, that means your payment is $483.32 a month. All right? $483.32 a month. You take that $483.32 times 60, that means over the course of those 5 years, you're actually paying $28,999 for that car. So $25,000 in principal and $4,000 in interest. All right. Now, that same money that I told you to leave in the bank earning 4% over the 5 years or 60 months, you actually have a total of $30,525. Now, all I want to do with this little exercise here, actually, here's a question, okay? Is this number here, the 30,525, is that a larger number than 28,999? Or are you guys doing math differently than I do in Florida? Yes, it's a bigger number, right? Well, how can that be? How can you possibly have more money earning 4 at the same time you're paying 6 over the same equal time period? Well, here's why. Because the car payment goes down every month. It goes down. It's on a decreasing balance. The money that you left in the account goes up. So one goes up and the other one goes down. But see, that's not the way that our minds are programmed to think. We automatically think if we earn 4 and pay 6, we're losing 2. We have to start learning how money works, all right? So all I want to do with this little exercise is prove to you that you can make money all day long earning 4% at the same time you're paying 6. And hopefully you see that. Now, why is that important? Okay, remember, the reason we're on this call tonight is talk to you about how to build and create your wealth and keep all the money in your family, recapture, recycle all the money that's going out for all the expenses that you're paying. So the machine that we're going to use to do that is a whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. Now, before you guys all hang up the call and think, oh my gosh, this is about life insurance. No, this is not about life insurance. This is about building your wealth. Why on earth do you think we would want to use a whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends to build our wealth? Why would we ever want to do that, right? Because that's what you're thinking. Okay, that's what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, what does a whole life insurance policy have anything to do with me building my wealth? Well, the reason we want to use this vehicle is because this is the number one thing that the super wealthy do. The number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world are conventional banks. Conventional banks own more in whole life insurance than all of their land and their buildings combined. Now, why on earth do you think conventional banks would own so much in whole life insurance? Is it because they're stupid or because they know something the rest of us don't know? Right. Probably they know something the rest of us don't know. So all we're going to do is we're going to mimic and we're going to imitate exactly what the wealthy do. Look, guys, this concept that I'm sharing with you has been around for over 200 plus years. I didn't invent it. The author of that book, R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker, didn't invent it. It's been around for over 200 years. Our tax code has only been here since 1913. There's so much that we can do with this vehicle that you cannot do with any other vehicle on the planet. So all we're going to do is mimic and imitate exactly what the wealthy do and get wealthy right along with them. Okay, now, if you remember before, I said that I showed you that you can make money all day long by paying 6% interest and earning 4%. Now, why is that important? Why is the 4 and the 6% important? Because inside of your policy, inside of your whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends, the guaranteed growth rate is 4%. Now, that's the guaranteed growth rate without the dividends. If the company pays dividends, the growth rate is even greater. Now, I cannot promise you the company is going to pay a dividend this year, next year, or 10 years from now, but all the companies that we work with have been paying dividends for 93 plus consecutive years. Some companies have been paying dividends for as many as 127 consecutive years. So if the company's been paying a dividend for over 100 years, do you think there's a pretty good chance it's still going to pay a dividend this year, next year, and the year after? Absolutely. There's a great chance, right? But even if they don't pay the dividend, I'm not talking about those dividends. I'm just talking about your guaranteed growth rate of 4% inside the policy. Now, the highest interest rate the insurance company is going to charge you to take a loan is 6%. So again, you can borrow at 6 and earn 4. Borrow at 6 and earn 4 all day long and make money. So that's the importance of the 4 and the 6%. Okay. Now, so and again, I said that banks are the #1 purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. Well, how do you check that out to see it's true? Go Google something called BOLI, B-O-L-I. It stands for bank-owned life insurance, and you'll see the hundreds and hundreds of pages that come up of how much life insurance conventional banks actually own. So again, we're just going to mimic what the wealthy do. And yes, we can make money all day earning 4 and paying 6. Now, we talked about earlier, what is the definition of money? And we said money is a means of exchange. You exchange food for money, money for food, car for money, money for car, house for money, money for house, right? Okay, so how about compound interest? Okay, compound interest. Is that something you believe in? And you guys are probably saying, absolutely, I believe in compound interest, right? We've been told compound interest is good. Well, look, in order for compounding or compound interest to work, your product or your money has to sit still. In other words, it cannot be in motion. So for example, if I want my money to compound, let's just say I have a $20 bill sitting here, and I take that $20 bill and I take it down to the bank teller, and I put that $20 bill in the bank's going to pay me interest on that money, right? But the only way that I earn interest on that money is it has to sit still in the bank, right? It cannot be in motion. It has to sit there. So if I go take that $20 bill out of the bank, it's no longer compounding. So basically, the motion has stopped when I park it in the bank, right? Now, again, as far as motion is a natural law of God, is it not? I mean, everything around us is in motion. So the cars are driving by outside, the wind is blowing, the birds are flying, blood is moving through your body, you know, as far as when you go to a grocery store, right? Everything there has to be in motion, like the fruit and the vegetables, or or else it'll spoil. How many of you would want to eat fish out of a stagnant pond, right? Probably nobody. So everything in life is about motion. However, compounding, they want to stop the motion. All right. Now, I want you to name me, because again, all of you agree that compound interest is a good thing. I want you to name me one business in the world that actually uses compound interest. Just name one. And here's what you're thinking. You're probably thinking of banks. Banks use compound interest. Well, no, they don't. Let's talk about that. Banks pay you compound interest and they charge you compound interest, but they don't actually use compound interest. So like if I took that $20 bill I was talking about earlier and I highlighted in yellow and put my initials on it and take it to the bank and put it into the bank. So now, like, does the teller take that $20 bill and do they take it back to the back room? And is there a little box back there that says, oh, this is Brent Kessler's $20? No, they don't. As a matter of fact, if I go back into the bank in a week, are they going to give me the same $20 bill back? No. What if I go back in an hour or in 15 minutes? No, they're not going to give me the same $20 bill back because they're keeping it in motion. So banks don't use compound interest. They pay you compound interest and they charge you compound interest, but they don't use it. How about a grocery store? Does a grocery store use compound interest? All right, let's think about it. How much money does a grocery store make if food is not moving off the shelf? What about a car dealer? How much money does a car dealer make if cars aren't moving off the lot? How about if you, as a chiropractor, how much money do you make if the headrest paper is not rolling? Right? Zero. So not one business in the world actually uses compound interest, but isn't it a little bit strange that all the major institutions that promote it, such as banks, Wall Street mutual funds, insurance companies, they tell us to park our money with them and leave it sit still, but they don't do it themselves. If it's so good to let your money compound, why aren't they doing it themselves? All right. Now, let's talk about probably a lot of you on this call, you have a 401k or an IRA. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into that too much today, but I want you to think about your 401k or your IRA. Why do you have a 401k or an IRA? Chances are because that's what your parents and grandparents told you. They said, hey, put your money away and hope just to get more later. You're going to save for the future, right? Well, okay, again, just a couple questions. Are there any guarantees at all with your 401k or IRA? Any guarantees at all? You're probably thinking, no, there's no guarantees. Well, there actually is one. It's guaranteed to never go below zero. But how exciting would that be if that actually happened? That would suck, wouldn't it? All right. Now, okay. So now I want to ask you a few questions about your money. Is a dollar worth more today or in the future? Hopefully you said today. And yes, a dollar's worth more today. And if you ever forget that, think about how many candy bars you could buy 20 years ago for a dollar, how many you can buy today for a dollar. Number two, all right, are taxes going to go up or go down? Yes, they're going to go up. And that's the history. History has shown that taxes go up. And even if they don't go up, aren't we taxed on more stuff all the time? Yes. What about question number three? Would you rather pay tax on the small amount of the seed or the big amount the harvest? The seed or the harvest? Hopefully you said the seed, right? I agree with all three of those answers, but all three of those answers totally violate, all three of those answers completely violate as far as putting money in a 401k or an IRA, because here's what you're doing. Whenever you do that, the thing that you're doing is you're putting in good dollars today to get paid with weaker dollars in the future. You're compounding your tax because your tax is always going to be there. And when you do pay the tax, you're going to pay it at the higher rate and not the lower rate. You're going to pay it on the harvest and not the seed. So I'm just trying to get you to think about what you're doing with your money. Let's go one step deeper. You told me money's a means of exchange, right? That's all money is. We exchange food for money, money for food, car for money, money for car. All right. So money's a means of exchange. Let's say today we all walk into the grocery store and what we're going to do is buy a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk. Are you going to wait 10, 15, 20 years to eat the bread or drink the milk? Absolutely not. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? How about if we go and buy a car or a house today? Are you going to wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years to drive the car or move into the house? No, that would be ridiculous. Well, why are you doing that with your money? You told me all of those things equal money. So why would you do that with your money? Why would you put your money in an account and wait to use it later and there's no guarantees? You see, people do things with money that they would never do with things that money buys. You would never buy a loaf of bread and put it in the freezer and wait 20 years to eat it, would you? But you'll put money in a 401k, an IRA, a retirement account, and hope to get more later. So I just want you to think of what is going on. And also, who controls that money in the 401k or IRA? Is it you or somebody else? Yes, it's somebody else. As a matter of fact, I want you to tell me everything you know about your retirement plan. Here, hang on, I'll tell you what you know. Here's what you know about your retirement plan. You know one of two things maybe. You know if it goes up or down based on the quarterly statements that you get, and you may know if it's in a low risk, moderate risk, or high risk category. But other than that, you guys don't know crap about your retirement plan. I'm just trying to get you to think about what is actually going on. See, I want you to use your money today and pay them back with weaker dollars in the future. Totally opposite to what we're programmed. We're programmed to give them our money today and for them to pay us back with weaker dollars in the future. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about how a conventional bank actually works. Here's how a bank works. All right, I'm going to say that you have $100,000 of your money. Now, don't get wrapped up in the number. I don't care what the number is. It could be 1,000 or 1 million. The point is that it is your money. It's your money. And I'm going to say that you found that really good bank that's going to pay you 4% interest on your money. Now, I know they're not paying you 4% interest, but you found a good bank. Now, every time you put your money into the bank, that money now becomes a liability to the bank. Well, how does the bank take your money and turn it into an asset? Loans, right? Loans are assets to banks. Now, let's think about that for a minute. A loan is an asset to a bank, but every time that we think of the word loan, we think of it as a payment, a debt, an expense, and a liability. See, we have to start thinking the way that the bank thinks, all right? And again, I'm going to refer you back to that video on youtube.com called The Backward Bicycle. Watch that video, The Backward Bicycle. See, the thing is, we have been programmed to ride the bicycle one way, and it may be the wrong way. And that's what we're doing with our money. Maybe the wrong thing, right? So loans are assets to banks, right? So we have to start thinking of a loan as an asset. So here's what happens. Whenever you put your money into the bank, how does the bank make money? Loan. So here's what you do. You put your money into the bank's going to pay you 4%. And guess what they do? They're going to take that money and they're going to loan it back to you or somebody else that wants to buy a house. And let's call that 7% interest rate that you're paying. Now, don't get hung up in the numbers. I want you to get the concept. So if you borrow money from a bank to buy a house, are you expected to pay them back? Absolutely you are, right? So who's in control of that transaction? The bank. All right. Now they take the money that's in the bank and now they're going to loan it out to you or somebody else that wants to buy a car. We'll call that 8%. And obviously, if you borrow money from a bank to buy a car, you got to pay them back. So who's still in control? The bank is still in control. See, all the banks are doing here, ladies and gentlemen, is they move money in, move it out, move it in, move it out, move it in, move it out. It's constantly in motion. That's why I cannot go back an hour after I put in my highlighted $20 bill and get that $20 bill back because the money is constantly in motion. So now let's say you want to do a house remodel, a swimming pool, granite countertops, a patio, or a deck. Now you're going to borrow at 9%. Well, if you borrow from the bank, the money's got to be paid back, doesn't it? So the bank is still in control. Finally, you're going to do a debt consolidation loan. We'll call that 12%. Pay off all the credit cards. That money goes back in the banking system. Now, I know it's getting late, especially if you're like me on the East Coast here. It's 9:30 at night, but we're going to do a little math, all right? Let's do a little math, and let's see how well you did and how well the bank did. Remember, I said you put your money in, and the bank's going to pay you 4%. Well, now they're going to loan it to you or someone that wants to buy a house at 7. So the bank made 7, you made 4. The bank made 7, you made 4. How much more did the bank make than you? 3% should be your answer. Now, how about the car? On the car, the bank made 8, you made 4. So 8 minus 4 is what? 4. What about the house remodel? 9 minus 4 is 5. And the debt consolidation loan, 12 minus 4 is 8. So look at this. The bank made 20% and you made 4%. The bank made 20 and you made 4. So how much more did the bank make than you? And here's what you're saying. You're saying, well, Brent, that's easy. 20 minus 4 is 16%. So you're thinking the bank made 16% more than you. Well, you're close. What about 500% more than you? Look, guys, if the bank made $20 and you made $4, didn't they make 5 times what you made? Banks are making between 400 and 1,300% on the money that you leave there each and every year. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, Brent, I hear you flapping your gums and moving your lips and telling me all of this, but how do I really know that's true? Well, here's what you can do. You can go Google something called BauerFinancial.com, B-A-U-E-R, BauerFinancial.com, and you can look up any bank that you want, a small bank, a big bank. I don't care if you get the annual report from this year, last year, or 20 years ago. On that annual report, you will see that banks are making no less than 400% on your money. I challenge you to do this exercise, and if you find a bank making less than 400% annually on your money, you owe it to me to call me up and tell me so I can change my presentation. I've been asking people to do that for years, and nobody's showed it to me yet. So maybe you'll be the first one. All right. So if you think about it, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because I don't care where you live, what town you live in. If you go to the major hub in the town or a major part of the town, and if you go to the intersection, to a major intersection, there's 4 corners on that intersection. And tell me what at least one building is that you see on at least one of those corners on almost every major intersection. It's a bank. Now, are the banks on the bad property, rundown location, bad landscaping, bad architecture, or are they the nicest buildings in town? Right? They're the nicest buildings in town, and they're everywhere. Who do you think's paying for all of those? So anyway, just go for a drive sometime, just like through your town, and just watch the new construction being built. Have you ever driven by a place and all of a sudden you see a new building coming up and you're thinking, oh, that's cool. I wonder what that's going to be. It's going to be a new restaurant, or some kind of new store that you're excited about, just that's going to be built. And you drive by there 3 weeks later and guess what it is? It's another bank. They're everywhere. So I just want you to be aware of this when you're out and look at all of the banks and how many are in your town. I don't care how big your town is or how small your town is. So banks are making 500% annually on the money that we leave there. Look, guys, I just want you to be the bank. We just want to replace the bank with you because you're doing all of this anyway in your life. You're buying homes, you're buying cars, you're doing house remodels, you're using credit cards, right? Just change the places with the bank. Okay, let's move on. And again, there's my reference about, it's called BauerFinancial.com, BauerFinancial.com. All right. Let's quickly talk about how you spend your money. I'm going to go through this quickly. I'll cover it more at the seminar. We spend 20 cents of every dollar goes to automobiles. Now, I'm not saying just the cost of the car. I'm saying the gas, the maintenance, the insurance, the upkeep. 20 cents of every dollar goes to cars. We spend about 30 cents of every dollar goes to housing, and we spend 40 cents of every dollar goes to living. So we're spending 90 cents of every dollar, and we're trying to save 10% or 10 cents of every dollar. Now, are you aware of what the average savings rate in America is today? It's actually less than 10%, but I'm going to say you guys are doing really good and you're saving 10%. Well, when most financial planners and advisors, when they come to you to talk to you about your money, they're talking to you about your savings, the amount you're saving, and they're trying to get you a higher rate of return on what you're saving. In order to get you a higher rate of return on what you're saving, that usually involves more risk, does it not? So how much more risk do you really want to take with your money? Probably not a lot, correct? Well, here's where I'm different. I'm not going to talk to you about the amount of money that you're saving. I'm going to talk to you about the amount of money that you're spending. And if I can just take some of what you're spending and move it into your savings category, then haven't I just increased your savings without you changing your cash flow, working any harder, taking any additional risk, or losing control, right? For example, let's say you're spending 20 cents of every dollar going to automobiles, and we take that 20 and knock it down to 15. So now we take that 5, we move it over to savings, and savings now goes from 10 to 15. Haven't I just given you a 50% rate of return on your savings just simply by transferring money, all without working harder, changing your cash flow, taking any additional risk, or losing control? Let's talk about interest. We spend 5 cents of every dollar goes to interest on automobiles, right? Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, no, Brent, I don't pay interest on automobiles because I pay cash for all my cars. Well, let's talk about that. First of all, the reason you pay cash for cars is one of two reasons. Number one, because the number one reason is you don't want any payments. And number two, you don't want to pay any interest. Well, is it really true if you pay cash for a car that you have zero payments? Well, let's just use a $20,000 car, for example. You have two choices. You can make one lump sum of $20,000 payment, or you can make $21,000 payments. Either way, you still have a payment, right? Whether it's one payment or 20 payments. And if you make one payment, you got to start saving up for the next car immediately, don't you? Because that car you're driving is not going to last you forever. So whether you make one payment or 20 payments, you still have payments, right? So now, how do you like to do things? Do you like to do things on a systematic basis or randomly? Well, let me ask you this. How do you like patients coming in your office? Do you want them just coming in whenever the heck they want to show up, or do you want them coming in on a systematic basis? Number two, the reason you pay cash for a car is because you don't want to pay interest. Well, is it really true that we don't pay interest when we pay cash for a car? I can take a $20,000 bill, go to the car dealer and buy a car for $20,000. I give the car dealer the $20,000, he gives me the car. Everybody walks away happy. He's got the money, I have the car. And you're thinking to yourself, I didn't pay any interest on that $20,000. Well, here's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. That $20,000 just left your family forever. It's gone, right? So even though you may not have paid interest directly, you've given up all earning right and all earning power on that $20,000 because it is gone. I'm going to show you how you can buy your car, get the car, the dealer will get the money, and you're going to get all the money back. All right? So we spend 25 cents of every dollar goes to housing. Now, I'm not going to get into this too much right now. I'm going to go into it more in detail at the Brim Hall seminar. So 25 cents of every dollar, 25% goes to interest in housing. You just got to believe me on it for right now. We spend 5 cents of every dollar goes to living. So what we're doing is we're spending 34.5 cents of every dollar goes out to interest to other people, and we're trying to save 10 cents or 10%. Do you see how it might be a little hard and difficult to get off the financial hamster wheel doing that? Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you're going to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own for the rest of your life. Okay? Buy all the cars and get all the money back for all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up right here, coming up on the screen. It's a little PDF file. There is one mistake on it, and I'll point that out so you see it. So let this, as this is coming up. Now, all the cars you're going to buy, drive, and own, okay? So now, okay, so on this chart, the thing you're going to do is you're going to see some numbers here, okay? I don't want you to get all wrapped up in all of these numbers, but I want you to look over here on the left, and if you notice on the left, it has years, okay? It has years right there. And again, it just goes in order. Year 1 to 8, 9 to 13, 14 to 18, and so on. Okay? And you have a column right here called age and another column called death benefit. I do not want you to worry about age and death benefit. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are buying a whole life insurance policy in a mutual company that pays dividends to build our banking system. So yes, you are going to have a death benefit. I don't want you to worry about age and death benefit at all. But because I said that, you're thinking, okay, I need to know about age and death benefit. All right. Well, let's just say you had 3 people, age, okay. You had one age 30, one age 40, and one age 50. They all walk into the same life insurance store today. They're all in equal health, and they're going to buy a life insurance policy for $10,000 in premium deposit. They're all in equal health. The only difference is their age. One's 30, one's 40, one's 50. Who's going to get the most death benefit? The youngest one, right? Who's going to get the least death benefit? The oldest one, right? That just makes sense. But see, the reason we're doing this is not for death benefit. We're doing it for cash. As long as I solve your need for finance and cash, you'll have more death benefit than you can ever imagine. All right. Now pay attention, because I'm going to show you how you're going to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. So here's what we're going to do. The thing we're going to do is we're going to buy this life insurance policy for $10,000 in premium deposit. Now listen, don't get wrapped up in the $10,000 number. This is just an example. I don't care if it's $1,000, $5,000, $100,000, $200 a month. It doesn't matter what the number is. I will never, ever, ever tell you what number to put in your whole life policy that pays dividends. You're going to tell me the number. But in this example, we're going to put in $10,000 a year and pay that for 7 years. And then we're going to stop paying it. No more after 7 years. Okay? Now, so if you notice, we're going to go buy a car in the 4th year for $25,000. Okay. Now, again, I would never have you just to wait a total of 4 years to use the cash in your policy. I want you to use the cash in your policy immediately. And my definition of immediately is within the first 30 days. Okay. In the first 30 days. But in this example, the thing we're doing is we're waiting 4 years. Okay. So now, okay. So the thing you're going to do is you're going to buy this car for $25,000 and you're going to pay yourself back the same way you would pay a bank back. Because remember earlier, you told me if you borrow money from a bank, you're expected to pay them back with interest. So if you borrow from yourself, do you think you should pay yourself back with interest? Absolutely right. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow 25, and over the next 5 years, we're going to pay ourselves $500 a month or $6,000 a year, which is going to be a total of $30,000, right? So here's what we've done after 7 years. After 8 years. After 8 years, here's what we did. The thing we did is we put in 10 times 7 is 70, 6 times 5 is 30, for a total of $100,000. All right. So the thing we did is we put in 100, but we took out 25, didn't we? We put in 100 and took out 25. So how much is our true net injection into the policy if we put in 100 and took out 25? Well, 100 minus 25 is 75. Agree? How much cash do we have right here? We have 73,226. If you take 73,226 and divide it into your net injection, which is 75,000, That means you just got back over 95% of every dollar for your very first car. So not only do you have the car, but you have 95% of the money back. Now, let me ask you this. Out of all the cars you've ever bought, driven, and owned up to this point in your life, how much of the money do you have today? The answer is zero, is it not? So if I do nothing else but show you how to get 90+% of every dollar back for every car you're going to buy, drive, or own, it's probably been a pretty good day. Now, it doesn't stop there because that car wears out. So now we go buy another car. We go buy another car, okay? And on that other car that we're going to buy, let's look at it right here. In year 9, $25,000. We buy another car. Now, remember, we're no longer putting premium into the policy. All we're going to do is buy the car for $25,000, pay ourselves back just like we did before. $500 a month, $6,000 a year for a total of 5 years, which is a total of $30,000. So here's what we did. All right. So the 25 we took out for the car, we paid back 30. So we paid back 30 and took out 25. So how much more did we put in than we took out? Well, 30 minus 25 equals 5, does it not? So 5,000 is your true net injection in year 9 to 13. Well, how much is in our policy? Our policy grew from 73,000 to 95,000. That is a $22,000 growth. Remember, I said there was a mistake on this chart. This number here is wrong. Okay, the growth is from 73 to 95. That is a $22,500 growth. $22,500 growth with a $5,000 net injection. How do you like buying cars my way? Are we doing anything stupid, silly, or ridiculous? No, man. I'm just using this stupid, crazy life insurance policy to buy a car. You're going to buy the car anyway. Now watch this. Watch this. I'm going to erase some of this right here. And I want you to look and I want you to see what we did in the first 13 years. Let's see what we did in the first 13 years. Well, in year 1 through 8, we put in 10 times 7 is 70. We put in 6 times 5 is 30 for a total of 100. And now in line 9 to 13, we put in 6 times 5 is 30. So we've put in a total of 130, have we not? 130 total. But we took out to buy 2 cars, didn't we? We took out 25 in year 4 and 25 in year 9 for a total of 50. So if we put in 130 and took out 50 for the 2 cars, our true net injection is what? $80,000, right? $80,000 through 13 years. Well, how much money do we have in our policy in year 13 in cash value? $95,000. That is right. If you answered 95,000, you're correct. Now, look, if my true net injection is 80 and I've got $95,000, not only do I have $95,000 in cash, I also have 2 cars sitting on the driveway, don't I? I have a car here that I bought in year 4 and another one I bought in year 9 for $25,000 each. So not only do I have $95,000 in cash sitting in the account, I have those 2 cars sitting on the driveway that I've owned, driven, and used the whole entire time. I can still drive them, own them, use them, give them away, or donate them. And if that's true, how much did those cars really cost you to buy, drive, and own? You're probably thinking, well, Brent, it didn't cost me anything. I made an extra $15,000, plus I have the 2 cars. Well, yes, that's the way my simple chiropractic mind works. So absolutely, that's exactly what's going through my mind as well. But I can't sit here and tell you the cars cost you zero, because you had to start the program, didn't you? You had to capitalize the program. Let's take a look here. In year number 1, you put in 10. That whole 10 was not available, was it? Well, are you in this for the short term or the long term? Hopefully you answered long term, right? But see, we tend to get hung up in short term thinking. Here's what I would challenge you to do. Go read a book called A Purpose-Driven Life, written by a guy named Rick Warren. In that book, Rick Warren talks about life is like a marathon. It doesn't matter where you start, it only matters how you finish. This is the game of life. So in the beginning, we're capitalizing our system because we want to have a better financial life as the years go on. Now, you all know as chiropractors what capitalization means, and let me explain. Every one of you chiropractors know what capitalization means. Okay, here's my question. How much money did you make in your first year of chiropractic college treating patients? Chiropractic college, I said. The answer is zero unless you did it illegally, right? Unless you collected money without being licensed. How much did you make in your second year of chiropractic college treating patients? Zero. Third and fourth, how much did you make? Zero. Why on earth did you spend all that time, energy, and money going to chiropractic school to make zero during your school? Well, here's why you did it. You did it to capitalize your education so you would have a better life for you and your family in the future, right? So that's what we're doing here. We're capitalizing our system so we have more wealth and we can get all the money back for all of the cars that we're going to buy, drive, and own. The longer this goes, ladies and gentlemen, the bigger the numbers are, right? And these numbers are not just fictitious numbers. This comes directly off of your policy illustration. This is guaranteed in the policy illustration. All right, so have I just showed you how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own for the rest of your life? And if you can do this with a car, what else could you do with it? For example, let's say this wasn't a $25,000 car. Let's say if it was a $50,000 car and you were paying yourself $12,000 instead of $6,000, right? How big would the numbers be? Could you do this with a boat? Could you do it with a motorcycle, a bicycle? Could you do it with your charitable giving? What about your taxes? Could you get all the money back for your taxes? Absolutely you can. See, all we're doing is turning liabilities into assets. Every liability we're now turning into an asset. Every asset that's depreciating, we're now turning it into an appreciating asset because we're getting all of that money back for all of the stuff that we're buying anyway. Okay, so just a couple things and I'm going to wrap up here is I want you to see this right here, a couple resources that you should have in your life, in your library. All right. This book right here by Robert Kiyosaki. It's called Second Chance. Okay, guys, listen. Everything I'm sharing with you tonight, this is exactly what Robert Kiyosaki talks about, turning liabilities into assets. He talks about it in this book, Second Chance. Have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? He wrote a book, Money, Master the Game, chapter 5.2. This is exactly what Tony Robbins talks about. All right. So last thing I'm going to share with you here, the concept, all right, that we're talking about. So like who uses this? Okay. So like who uses this concept? Well, let's just kind of look at a couple people that have used this concept. Remember, I said we're just going to mimic what the wealthy do. So there's a college football coach. His name is Jim Harbaugh, and he coaches the University of Michigan. Go back and look up in November of 2016. The cash value life insurance is what makes him one of the top paid coaches because the university used a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends for his compensation. Go look it up. Go look up Joe Biden. right? So look right here in the middle, Joe Biden, the ex-vice president, all right? Joe Biden holds a total of, he holds 6 life insurance policies. 6 life insurance policies. What about Walt Disney? Walt Disney started Disneyland, but after failing, he had to get the means of his money and his financing. He had to get his own financing, and a large part came by him collateralizing his policy to borrow money from his cash value life insurance. Ray Kroc, same thing. He used the cash value in his life insurance policy. Stanford University, all right. Here it goes. It says that they used the husband's proceeds to avoid closure during a 6-year period of financial distress. J.C. Penney. Go look up about J.C. Penney using his whole life policy. The Pampered Chef, using $3,000 she borrowed from a life insurance policy. So this lady, Doris Christopher, started the Pampered Chef in 1980. By 2002, the company had grown into a $700 million operation that was acquired by Warren Buffett, which is now worth $1.5 billion and has 12 million customers. And then lastly, Foster Farms. So again, guys, all we're doing is we're going to mimic exactly what the wealthy do. We are going to mimic exactly what the wealthy do. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to do what they do.